So I'm so happy to have Ian Scrimgeour here with us today. It's an exciting time for mineral exploration in the Northern Territory, with the emergence of new exploration provinces for a diverse range of mineralisation styles. Ian's presentation will feature some highlights of new geoscience by NTGS and its collaborative partners that is successfully opening up new greenfield provinces, especially in undercover areas. Ian will also discuss the exploration underway in these areas, including many companies that have invested in the territory for the first time. And finally, Ian will introduce plans for a significant expansion of the geoscience and grants programs of the Resourcing the Territory initiative. So thank you so much for joining us, Ian. It's absolutely awesome having you here.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Jess has already given me a pretty good intro there about what I'll be talking about, but I really would like to thank Jess for giving me the opportunity to talk at GeoHug. She actually gave me the opportunity to talk at the very first GeoHug, and I backed out. So I'm glad she's given me a second chance. But all I'm going to really do today is hopefully take you for a bit of a tour of what's going on in the Territory at the moment. Hopefully share with you some of the excitement we've got about what's going on around new exploration provinces that are emerging in the Territory, in particular the fact that a whole lot of new geoscience that's come out over the past couple of years is really opening up some vast new parts of the Territory for exploration. And yeah, we're pretty excited about what all that means. Like anywhere in Australia, this is the challenge we face in the Territory. We've got probably 4 or 5 tier 1 deposits being mined in the Territory, but not a lot else at the moment. And those tier 1 deposits were almost all found either outcropping or close to outcropping mineralisation. And I guess while this has been a challenge all over Australia, it's particularly a challenge in the Territory, given that the tyranny of distance, the fact that we have had less historical exploration. And these covered areas have been pretty data poor, and it's been hard to attract new exploration into these areas. And this is at least sort of 80% of the Territory. For those of you who don't know much about the Northern Territory, just to quickly introduce our sector, I guess at the moment we're dominated by 4 main commodities, being zinc lead concentrate, mainly from Macarthur River. Manganese, we're actually the world's largest manganese producer, and that's predominantly from Groote Eylandt, and gold and bauxite. But we're still a relatively small mining sector in comparison to WA, worth about $4.5 billion. Our uranium mining sector came to an end earlier this year with the closure of the Ranger uranium mine, but there's plenty of uranium potential out there if the uranium price does the right thing. And with the iron ore price going up, we've got a small iron ore sector at the moment. In terms of mineral exploration, we're sort of seeing $130, $140 million of exploration being spent in the Territory at the moment. We had a pretty tough last year with all the borders being shut, not being able to bring drill rigs into the Territory, but things are recovering pretty strongly in 2021. And there's lots of upside to the Territory at the moment. We've got a really strong pipeline of developing mining projects, about 20 significant mining projects in the approvals pipeline. And Core Lithium's Finniss lithium mine is now fully permitted, fully financed, and we're expecting to hear about FID within the next few weeks. And that's located literally about 25 kilometres from where I'm sitting here in Darwin. And down in Central Australia, KGL Resources Jervois copper mine is also fully permitted, and they'll hopefully go to FID early next year. So we are looking forward to seeing lithium and copper added to our list of commodities we're producing, and also rare earths. The Nolans Rare Earths project, owned by Arafura Resources, that's been around for a fair while, but they're now really well advanced in terms of having all their environmental approvals in place for rare earths processing on site, and getting a lot of their finance in place. So, keep an eye on that one. But what I'll be particularly talking about today is some of the boom in copper exploration in the Territory, both for a range of commodity styles, including IOCG and perhaps particularly for sediment-hosted copper. There's an upturn in gold in the territory. We've sort of missed a lot of the gold boom in the territory, but we've got a number of gold projects progressing around Pine Creek now, and I'll talk more about Pine Creek later. A new mill proposed at Tenant Creek to get gold mining back underway there. And out in the Tanami, I mean, Newmont keep finding more than 500,000 ounces a year on average, you know, more than they're mining. There's got to be more big ones out there. There will be more big gold discoveries in the Tanami. Down in Central Australia and the Aileron and Erindina provinces, we're seeing a real exploration upturn, particularly targeting copper and nickel. And IGO have picked up province-scale belts through the Aileron province and Erindina province, particularly for copper and nickel. And look, I'm not going to talk a lot about oil and gas in this presentation, but the Beetaloo sub-basin, I certainly believe it's the most exciting shale gas play outside of North America. There's a number of companies testing horizontal wells in both dry gas and wet gas plays in the Beetaloo as we speak. In the next 6 months, we'll have a much better idea about the commerciality of large-scale shale gas production in the Beetaloo, which could be absolutely transformational for the territory. And we've got lots of large undeveloped phosphate deposits in the territory as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say, the territory has awesome geology, but it is underexplored, it is underdeveloped, but it's now increasingly data rich, and we see this as a real game changer in stimulating further exploration away from the known mineral provinces in the territory. And the territory government's been investing through the Resourcing the Territory initiative. This is in its last year now, a 4-year, $26 million initiative to grow the exploration sector. And most of the work I'll be talking about in this presentation, at least the NT government side of it, has been funded through this. This includes our industry grants programs, a whole range of new pre-competitive geoscience, and also just programs to make data more accessible. But I'll talk more at the end about the fact that in recognition of the success of the program and the fact that government have recognised that the resources sector is what the territory economy needs to grow into the future. They've increased our annual funding for the initiative from $6.5 to $9.5 million a year from 1st of July next year, and made that permanent funding. So that makes the territory second only to WA in terms of the level of funding and ongoing funding for pre-competitive geoscience. So we're pretty excited about that, as you could imagine. So what have we been up to? Well, there's a few things that we're really trying to do in the territory at the moment. One is upgrade our coverage of geophysical data, trying to get to 200-metre line-spaced mag rad at least across basement terrains, and down to 2 kilometre or less in terms of gravity. In all of our geophysical acquisition programs, we go out to industry and invite industry to partner with us, and this really helps increase the resolution of these surveys. And NTGS looks after the land access, the mobilisation. All industry needs to do is come in and infill where they see they would like higher resolution data. We're just about to start a really large gravity survey through the Barkly region of the central part of the Northern Territory between Tennant Creek and the Queensland border. This is going to build on a whole lot of geoscience data that's been acquired in this area over the last few years, and 5 companies are coming in with us on that survey. That acquisition should start the next couple of weeks and be finished early next year. It's going to be pretty hot out there for the guys doing that, I think. In places like the Tanami and the Northern Aileron province, where we've acquired these big surveys, we've also been doing some working with Tegan Blakey at CSIRO on some detailed geophysical interpretations, and also bringing in all of the industry geophysical data, regridding it, reprocessing it into standard formats, and combining it all into a single product, which is available from NTGS. So we're very keen to bring in industry data sets into our pre-competitive programs wherever we can. And earlier this year, we incorporated all of our geophysical data into a new sea-based product, which was put together by Geognostics. For those of you who aren't familiar with what sea-base is, it's effectively a depth to basement and that's basement in terms of basement from a petroleum perspective. This just shows so much detail in terms of the geometry and extent of our sedimentary basins, particularly in this area in the southern Macarthur Basin and South Nicholson Basin and Lawn Hill Platform in the Gulf of Carpentaria region, which I'll be talking about more later in the presentation. But I'd really encourage you to download this product. It has a whole range of GIS data sets that are incredibly useful for exploration in and under sedimentary basins in the territory. So one of the key themes we've had under our pre-competitive geoscience has been to unlock the potential of the Barkly and Gulf region. So this is basically everywhere from the area around Tenant Creek in the centre of the Northern Territory, heading out to the Queensland border, and then up to the Gulf of Carpentaria. This includes the Barkly Tableland, which is a vast area of no outcrop. Those photos I showed in one of the first slides of no outcrop were from the Barkly Tableland. But on all sides of the Barkly Tableland, we see really highly mineralised provinces. The Macarthur Basin to the north with the Macarthur River zinc deposit, Tenant Creek with its copper gold mineralisation, and then of course Mount Isa Century zinc just across the border in Queensland. So fantastically prospective geology around a non-outcropping area. So there's a few things that we and our collaborative partners have been working on, and this has been an area we really have had a lot of collaboration with Geoscience Australia, MinEx CRC, Adelaide Uni, CSIRO and industry. But we've been looking at a few key things. One is undercover extensions of Tenant Creek, both east and west of Tenant Creek, where the prospective geology is at really explorable depths of only a few hundred metres or less. In the Greater Macarthur Basin, and I'll talk more in a moment about what we mean when we say the Greater Macarthur Basin, but it's basically the Macarthur Basin and its undercover extents which go across vast areas of the territory. We've been working really hard on trying to understand the subsurface extents, the architecture, and the stratigraphic correlations across this vast area to give a framework for exploration undercover, which is really, opening up a much larger area. And then I'll be talking a bit more later in the presentation about the South Nicholson Basin and Lawn Hill Platform. And this is a really exciting opportunity for the Northern Territory, particularly the extension of the Lawn Hill Platform into the NT from a minerals perspective. As I'll discuss, there's previously unrecognised undercover extent and some fantastic sediment-hosted mineral potential, as well as shale gas potential in what is effectively an unexplored basin near the NT Queensland border. So many of you would be aware of the kind of work that GA did back, particularly between about 2017 and 2019 in the Barkly Tableland in the area they called Tizer, which is Tenant Creek, Mount Isa. So the area of no outcrop between Tenant Creek and Mount Isa. It's a covered frontier between the two endowed mineral provinces, and GA invested really heavily in a whole range of geological techniques, from surface geology right through to lithospheric scale geology. And I think it's been a fantastic case study in what can happen when you throw a really diverse range of techniques at an area of previously a data poor crust. And the list here, I won't read through them all, but it's just an example of some of the data sets that they acquired in collaboration with NTGS over that area. And this highlighted a few things of particular importance. One was an area out to the east of Tenant Creek, centred around 200 kilometres to the east of Tenant Creek, which has been informally termed the East Tenant region. And this was highlighted as an area of potential, on the basis of everything from offsets in lithospheric and crustal depth, through to a major gravity ridge, major structures, major conductivity structures showing up in the MT, and mineral system modelling, showing that this area had all of the right ingredients, particularly for copper gold mineralisation. And the basement through this area is typically at depths of between about 100 and 500 metres. So GA and NTGS did some more work in that area. There was some more detailed gravity and MT, and then the MinEx CRC in the latter part of 2020 went and drilled 10 research drill holes in the area, over an area of about 100 by 50 kilometres. And these were just testing areas of various geophysical signature to test geological framework and whether there was the presence of any alteration systems. And certainly this showed the existence of widespread alteration, and a number of the drill holes, or at least a couple of the drill holes, I won't try and oversell it, but a couple of the drill holes intersected mineralisation, both copper and zinc mineralisation, quite a bit of sulfides, and widespread alteration in numerous drill holes. And this is a slide from Andy Clark's presentation at AGES, the annual geoscience seminar in Alice Springs last April, about some of the drilling from the East Tenant region, showing the wide variety of alteration styles, really altered rocks encountered in the drilling associated with some copper and zinc mineralisation. And I'll talk more in a moment about some of the exploration activity that has been generated by this information. But at the moment, there's a whole lot of analysis going on these drill holes. I can't talk about a lot of it at the moment. A lot of it's still in progress. But I think what will become clear is that this is an area of quite diverse geology. It's not going to be exactly the same as Tennant Creek or Mount Isa, but I think if you come to the AGES conference in Alice Springs next April, there'll be a lot of really interesting results coming out on what the geological framework and the mineral potential of this completely undercover province is. And NTGS has also been doing a lot of work, some of it with Geoscience Australia, closer into Tennant Creek, and also in the Rover mineral field, which is another undercover mineral province about 70 kilometres down to the southwest of Tennant Creek. Now, the Rover field has been known about for a fair while, but and Castile Resources are currently in the process of doing a pre-feasibility study and a really major drilling campaign at the Rover 1 prospect, and hitting some fantastic hits of gold and copper as the intersection on the slide shows. And NTGS have been working with GA on looking at what the geological framework of this field is, because it's really hasn't been known at all. It all sits under about 300 metres to 500 metres of Paleozoic cover. But what the work to date has shown, it's dominated by 1850 million year volcanoclastic rocks. It's not identical to Tennant Creek. It is actually different to Tennant Creek. But we do have Tennant Creek style mineralisation there, and it does suggest that maybe Tennant Creek style mineralisation isn't confined just to the Warramunga province that occurs at Tennant Creek. But there's also some other really interesting mineralisation styles out there, and potentially Mount Isa style mineralisation out undercover right in the western part of the Rover field at Explorer 108 and Curiosity. And NTGS are doing a whole lot of work at the moment on trying to understand the age of the host rocks and what the setting and style of that mineralisation is. And the other thing we've been doing to try and stimulate things around Tennant Creek, and this is largely because the Territory Government is really keen to see Tennant Creek get back up and running as a mining centre. We've been doing a lot of compilation of all of the open file industry data. We've had a compilation of all the open file geophysical survey data with all the gravity data, the high resolution gravity data combined into a single grid, and all of the MAG compiled and reprocessed. And that's all now publicly available in a single product from NTGS. And we've also compiled and released all open file drill holes and geochemistry from the entire Tennant Creek field. But now moving on to basins, and I guess we're really excited at the moment, and we have been for a few years, about the Greater Macarthur Basin, but that's now extending to the Lawn Hill Platform and South Nicholson Basin, which are down to the, down to the southeast of the Greater Macarthur Basin, straddling the NT Queensland border. When we talk about the Greater Macarthur Basin, this slide shows, the Macarthur Basin, which outcrops around the Gulf of Carpentaria. But then over near the WA border, we have the Birrindudu Basin, And then down near Tennant Creek, we have the Tompkinson province, which has the Namarine group that's shown there. All of these basins are contiguous undercover and form one big sedimentary basin or series of stacked sedimentary basins that have fantastic sediment-hosted copper and zinc potential, as well as petroleum potential, and some of the world's oldest petroleum plays. And in the middle there, in the red outline, is the Beetaloo sub-basin, which is the focus of a lot of the shale gas exploration at the moment. So we've been doing a lot of work with our collaborative partners at really trying to understand the correlations across this vast area and build up a 3D picture of this vast, largely undercover Paleo to Meso-Proterozoic basin. And certainly with a lot of the work that's been coming out, there's been a massive amount of exploration interest in sedimentary hosted copper in the greater Macarthur Basin, as well as the South Nicholson Basin and Lawn Hill platform. We've recently seen Encounter Resources take out vast areas and also bring in BHP into a major joint venture searching for sediment-hosted copper. I mean, given there's actually been no large-scale sediment-hosted copper deposits yet identified in the greater Macarthur Basin, it's really encouraging to see the amount of exploration interest that's going into sediment-hosted copper at the moment, just based on the new geoscience. And we've also just recently seen Oz Minerals come into the territory for the first time, exploring for sediment-hosted copper. And certainly when we started doing our work in the greater Macarthur Basin, we focused in at first at some of the better outcropping areas, particularly around the Batten Fault Zone, which hosts the Macarthur River zinc deposit. We did a major collaboration with CSIRO from about 2016 through to about 2019. And this was really about pulling apart the Batten Fault Zone, all of the various sub-basins, the black shales of the Barney Creek Formation. Marcus Kunzman from CSIRO, who was embedded within NTGS, logged every intersection that we had through the Barney Creek Formation and put it all into a sequence stratigraphic and isotopic framework. Tegan Blakey did geophysical interpretation and 2D modelling of sections, where we also reprocessed and interpreted all of the industry airborne EM. That's all been released now. There's some of those products are listed below on the slide, but they're all available from the Resourcing the Territory website. But really encourage you, if you're interested in sediment-hosted mineralisation, there's some fantastic insights into the controls on sediment-hosted base metal mineralisation in the Macarthur Basin in these reports. But what's been a real game changer in the last sort of, I guess the last year or so, has been the interpretation of some of the seismic data that's been acquired by GA in collaboration with NTGS across the Barkly region out to the east of Tennant Creek. There were two main phases of seismic data acquisition. One was in 2017, and those lines are shown in the pale blue in the map on the right-hand side of the slide. And then in 2019, there was the Barkly seismic survey, which is the thicker lines shown on the slide, and the section that is shown down in the bottom right there. And what this has really highlighted is some really exciting, quite distinct provinces for sediment-hosted mineralisation through, and I guess beneath the black soil plains of the Barkly Tableland. Down in the southeast, straddling the NT Queensland border, is what GA have informally termed the Carrara domain, which includes the Carrara sub-basin, which is what appears to be a very significant depot centre of both Paleo-Proterozoic Lawn Hill platform rocks and overlying Meso-Proterozoic South Nicholson Basin. Interestingly, the Century zinc deposit lies on the western flank, the eastern flank of the sub-basin, but the western flank within the Northern Territory is completely undercover. Then there is a zone of structural complexity, which is the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor, again informally named by Chris Carson at Ages in April this year. So a corridor of northeast trending half grabens, entirely unexplored in the Northern Territory, extending a long way undercover. That seem to be half grabens, probably of Paleoproterozoic age, potentially of similar age to the significant sediment-hosted deposits at places like Macarthur River and Mount Isa. It's over 400 kilometre strike length, and the bulk of that strike length is within the Northern Territory. And then to the north is the Beetaloo-Macarthur Basin, or the Beetaloo-Macarthur Domain, which is the, I guess, the undercover extents of the Macarthur Basin as we know it. And this has actually a quite a different deep seismic character, suggesting that the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor does represent a substantial crustal break, and also corresponds with some of the really deep-seated crustal structures that have also generated interest for IOCG mineralisation in the area. So in the latter part of 2020, MinEx CRC drilled the Carrara 1 drill hole, which was located in the Northern Territory close to the Queensland border on one of the 2017 seismic lines. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, but it intersected significant amounts of black shales as well as some base metal sulfides. So all of these new subbasins and the rift corridor are now largely covered in exploration tenure. So that's just giving you a bit more detail on this seismic. If you go from left to right, you can see the Beetaloo subbasin right on the left there in the northwest. Then shallowly, or Macarthur Basin outcropping beneath shallow Georgina Basin cover across a large area of the Beetaloo-Macarthur Domain. Then the large half grabens in the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor, and then moving further to the southeast into the really quite deep Carrara subbasin, which is a subbasin of both, well, what is interpreted at the moment to be both Lawn Hill Platform and South Nicholson Basin. So this image on the left here is a combination of the sea base image of the Northern Territory and Western Queensland, showing the incredibly thick depot centre of the Carrara subbasin there down to the southwest of Century, and then along the northern part of the Lawn Hill Platform and South Nicholson Basin, the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor. And you can see the seismic lines overlaid on that. And what it really shows is that actually the bulk of the Lawn Hill Platform and South Nicholson Basin occur in the Northern Territory. They're structurally complex. The Carrara subbasin looks to like it could really be a lookalike in many respects for the Beetaloo subbasin in terms of its shale gas potential, but also has fantastic potential for sediment-hosted zinc and copper. And certainly the structural complexity in the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor looks extremely prospective for SEDEX and other styles of sediment-hosted base metal mineralisation. So these are a couple of images from the Carrara 1 well, which just at the start of this month, it became open file. It's sitting in the NTGS core library in Darwin, so anyone can come and view it and sample it. The top image is of one of the black shales. There's a number of thick, high organic rich black shales through the drill hole, and the lower image is of finely laminated sediments with soft sediment deformation, but containing fine sphalerite, pyrite, and galena that was reported in the well logs. So we're really excited that this hole that was drilled really in the middle of nowhere has intersected such prospective rocks, both in terms of black shales and in rocks that seem to have similarities to places like Macarthur River. And more details on the Carrara 1 well can be downloaded from either the MinEx CRC website or GA at the at the address shown in the bottom left there. So in the middle of last year, we were pretty happy with how things were going in terms of pickup of tenure across the Barkly Tableland. This map shows looking east of Tenant Creek and across the Barkly. All of these tenements were picked up after about the start of 2019, and these were mainly picked up on the basis of the IOCG potential that was highlighted by some of the early work by GA. But what we're seeing now is just increasing take-up of tenure over this area. This area was completely vacant prior to the beginning of this work in sort of 2018 or thereabouts. It's now completely taken up with tenure. And just as a bit of a overview of some of the activity going on, this year we're seeing the beginning of a lot of the large-scale geophysics and drilling going on in the area, much of it co-funded by NTGS. I think this year NTGS is co-funding 5 big geophysical surveys by industry, as well as drilling programs by Newcrest and by Strategic Energy Resources. We've seen the BHP investment up to the north of Tennant Creek with Encounter Resources. Red Metal, who have the tenure shown in orange, picked up the westernmost extent of the Brunette Downs Rift Corridor on the basis of the presentations that were at Ages, and Teck has picked up a really large land holding around that western margin of the Carrara sub-basin for sediment-hosted base metals. And there's also a range of really enthusiastic juniors that are getting out and doing large-scale geophysics at 50 to 100 metre scale mag, 500 to a kilometre spaced gravity. Most of that co-funded by NTGS, so it's all going out in the public domain. So suddenly this area is becoming incredibly data rich. So we're continuing to do what we can to try and support this exploration boom out in the Barkly. It is a really exciting time with so much activity going on. We've captured all of the exploration, drilling and geochemical data for the entire Barkly Tableland region and Gulf of Carpentaria area. That's all digitally captured and made available. I mentioned all the co-funding that we're doing of greenfields exploration out there, the big ground gravity survey that's about to get underway that'll cover much of this area. And over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to see a lot more coming out from both GA and NTGS. It's going to continue to add to the volume of data and the geological framework of this area. So it's going to be a really exciting time for the Barkly over the next few years. Now my time will soon be up, so I can't go into a lot more detail about some of the other exciting work that's going on, but certainly NTGS is also really active down in Central Australia. In the Aileron province, we've been doing a lot of work in the northeastern Aileron province, where KGL Resources Gervais copper project is. And we've done a lot of work on understanding the mineralisation styles there, and then rolling out that understanding across the Aileron province and looking at the copper mineral systems in the area, and doing geological mapping of that northeastern Aileron province to make sure that there's a good geological framework by which to understand the mineralisation out there. I'll talk in a moment about what we're doing in the Amadeus Basin, and down in the stacked basins in the Simpson Desert region, the Warburton, the Paderca, the Eromanga, these sort of Cambrian to Mesozoic basins. We've got a major new program underway with the Feds and with South Australia to come up with a really coherent understanding of particularly the petroleum potential of that area. We love the Amadeus Basin down in Central Australia, not just for its petroleum potential. It is a petroleum producer. It's got great potential for naturally occurring hydrogen and helium beneath in subsalt plays. But we also think it's really underdone for its sediment-hosted base metal potential, particularly sediment-hosted copper, particularly in the Neoproterozoic. And we've got a major campaign underway to remap all of the central part of the Amadeus Basin, particularly looking at pulling apart and standardising that Neoproterozoic to early Cambrian stratigraphic framework, which has fantastic potential both for oil and gas and for sediment-hosted mineralisation. And there's a whole lot of maps, some of which have been released, but a lot of maps will be rolled out over the next 12 months. And we've got a big campaign about just getting legacy exploration data out there. I won't go into any detail other than to say we're investing very heavily in within the next 5 years getting a complete database of all exploration, drilling and geochemistry out there as a major new data set for our exploration sector. In terms of our grants, we've been doing grants for exploration since 2008. We're now in round 14. It's getting bigger every year. I think we're giving away about $1.7 million this year, but we're ramping up to a big program in 2022 where from then on we'll be giving out something in the order of $3 million a year in grants, which for the size of our industry is going to be pretty significant. In 2021, we've expanded it. Government wanted us to get more involved in supporting brownfields drilling. So now we will co-fund drill holes in brownfields areas where people are doing really deep drilling or drilling conceptual targets that are near known deposits. So, but what we're finding with the volume of data that's being generated from this program, particularly the funding of regional geophysics, is this is really substantially adding to the pre-competitive data availability in the territory. So hopefully a win-win for industry and well, both for the companies themselves, but all of industry. So as I mentioned earlier, we've had a major increase in funding that's going to kick in 2022. This is really exciting for NTGS. It's the first time we've had significant ongoing funding. I've just got a quote there from the ministerial release on the kinds of things that this will fund. There's certainly, government are keen for us to continue doing what we're doing in supporting greenfields exploration, but also getting more involved in brownfields areas as well, to try and bring forward near-term resource development. Basically, there was an independent study done right across government on how to grow the territory economy, and resources came out really as the industry that is one of the most, if not the most important industries that can grow the Northern Territory economy. So we'll be substantially expanding the grants program, as I said. We'd like to have the call for applications for that in February next year, closing in April or May, and in about November, we'll go out publicly with the details of that new program. We're going to have a big data modernisation program to really help make our large data sets more findable, accessible and usable. We're going to get back into the Pine Creek origin. I love Pine Creek. I think it's underdone. There's no reason the next Fosterville isn't out there at depth in Pine Creek. It's actually not as mature as people think. And we're planning to roll out a range of programs to reinvigorate that area. Strong focus on energy systems in basins and critical minerals, but really, we believe in NTGS, it's got to be all about continuing to provide industry with a quality baseline geological framework they need. So we don't want to get too cute about the next pretty commodity. We want to make sure industry has the geological framework, the baseline data that they need. And so we'll continue to have that focus going forward. But there's some obvious, excuse me, obvious greenfields targets for us to look at in future, places like the Birrindudu Basin, which are really data poor at the moment, that we hope to really upgrade over the coming few years. So, excuse me, I'm just going to get a glass of water and close this blind. Okay, that's better. I can see now. So finally, I just want to give a plug for AGES, which is our big exploration-focused event that we hold every year in Alice Springs in April. If you're interested in any way in the geology or the exploration industry in the territory, come along. Last year we had about 260 people. It was Jess's first AGES. I think she had a ball, but I'll let her comment on whether she had a good time or not. But it's a really technical exploration-focused event. Everyone's away from home, so it's a bit of a party at the same time. I'd really invite all of you to come along and be part of it. And there's going to be so much more new information coming out on a lot of this work I've talked about today. So thanks, everyone. I hope I've given you just a bit of an indication of why we're getting pretty excited about some of the new opportunities that are opening up and the new exploration provinces in the Territory. If you're interested in finding out more about any of this, please visit the Resourcing the Territory website. We only really got this going probably about a year ago, but it's got all the latest news from NTGS, all the latest news on exploration. You can download all of our publications and data from there, or whack me an email, or if you're able to travel, drop up and see us in Darwin. And for those who can't, we look forward to seeing you when you can. But I'll leave it there, Jess. Thanks very much. Yeah, happy to take any questions, of course.
Thank you so much.